Um, so I'm the ceramic artist, the potter. I'm originally I'm going to give you some background, and then I'm going to talk about the pieces and the clay and the glazes. So just two things. I'm originally from Chicago, born and raised there, and I went to the University of Illinois and graduated in communications design. And worked at a couple of different places, and I started my own business in 1975 and as an environmental graphic designer. So what environmental graphic designers do is really communicate and work on projects and exhibits. I do a lot of exhibit work, did a lot of exhibit work and communication work. So that was 75, and about 85 I found clay at a local place very close to where I lived, and I really hadn't been involved in any clay up to that point. Lowell Street was the name of the gallery that was close to me, and I started taking classes and went from beginner to beginner plus into intermediate, and then all the way through to them giving me a key to the place through all the years that I was there. And I just fell in love with pottery, but I also love my day job, so I never gave that up. But I got more and more interested in it. My husband and I, who's here, Jack, who's a great support, we loved Southwest Wisconsin. We were always up here camping and hiking and rock climbing, and we decided that we needed to find something. And we bought a farm in 1989 in Dodgeville, Wisconsin. And it's just a delightful, wonderful place as this whole area is. I mean, you can't say that any place in this wonderful Southwest area is boring. It just rolls, and there's wonderful rocks and streams that go through, so we fell in love with it. And on that property, there was a wonderful old stone granary. And at this point, it was all closed up and a little bit rickety. And they used to store all the plow equipment for the horses in there. And so we decided that we would turn it into my studio. And so we remodeled that in about 2002 and had it tuck pointed, and we built out tables everywhere inside. And it's just wonderful. It's just a really, really nice space to work in. I started having Christmas sales in about 2005 for all the neighbors up and down our drive, and got to meet all the people and really enjoyed it. And Ed Wall, who's one of the artists here, and Ed and Ann had become very good friends of ours, and he invited me to put an application in for the Fall Art Tour, which I did. And I got accepted in the first Fall Art Tour. I think I wrote that down because I had to check it. Was in 2010 that I actually was part of. And it's really been a wonderful experience for me in that I've just met so many people. And we're divided up into 3 different areas of the Baraboo area, the Spring Green, Dodgeville, and then Mineral Point. So not only is it a bigger community, but it also, we're broken down into our area. So we've made friends with people within our area and became, we've got a really strong community of artists in this entire area, in the entire valley, and it's very good. We move full time. My husband and I both retired, and we've been on the farm now 11 years full time. We sold our place in Chicago, and this is our only residence, and we love it. We love the neighbors and the community here. I found River Arts in 2016. My husband and I, somebody had told us that, we have to go in here. There's a really great gallery, and there's good places for lunch, and we came in here, and I was just knocked out. And I was really impressed. And I asked for an application. And was interviewed, and then so I've been showing with the gallery since 2016. So it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to put more work up and to have the exposure. So I appreciate it. The gallery's been really good to me, and I really like the people here. They're so supportive. And the exhibits are wonderful. I'm going to talk a little bit now about my clay and my work. I work in porcelain mainly. It's all high fire. And I have my porcelain mixed up for me, and I love the way it throws. I love the way it cuts and trims and the way it fires and the color that it gives me. And I also work in a stoneware. And stoneware comes in both a, let's see, this one. Stoneware comes in a darker color, as well as it comes in this gray color, or that's a better example maybe, where you get the gray, because there's iron in it. And when I fire, the iron comes out. So that piece, this is actually my porcelain. The white is my porcelain clay, and the gray is the stoneware. And then it's just clear over it. So there's actually no glazes on this except the clear coating and then the black on the inside. So I really enjoy working with the glazes to try to bring out the quality and let the quality of the clay show through. I think it's really important to just be able to be honest about the clay and expose it. Hi, Roger. So I really, it's fun to play around with it and to do that. So all of this, all of the clays are high fired. And so when I buy a clay or I make a clay, I will buy a high fired clay. So you have to be careful that you're not firing a high fired clay at a mid-range. And so what you want to make sure is that the clay vitrifies. So it turns into glass as an analogy, so it's not porous. So it's not going to accept acids, it's not going to accept stains from food, because it's totally at its temperature where it becomes vitrified. So it's like a piece of glass, and it resists anything that's on it. The way that I work with these different clays is I throw a lot of pieces. So these are thrown on the wheel, and these are thrown on the wheel. So I always say that I do wheel thrown but altering, and I really have fun because you get a totally geometric piece off the wheel, and then it's time to play, and you're altering it, you're squeezing it, you're pushing it. So it's really wonderful in how responsive clay is, and you can just throw it off that strong geometry and have fun with it. And I think that's really inspirational. It's one idea leads to another idea, leads to another idea, and all of a sudden it's like the black hole of the internet. You know, you start with one thing and then you end up 4 generations later with something that's really fun, and it doesn't look at all like the first thing that you did or you thought you were going to do. And then the pieces over here are all, I've thrown a couple of very large forms and trimmed them and fired them, so they're bisqueware. And then I roll this out with a rolling pin, and I just start scoring it and trying shapes. And then I'll just set it on top of these forms to dry, and that's what gives the curvature to it. And on the back of these, there's usually a foot that I'll put on. So it sits up, so it doesn't sit directly on the surface. And I like how it sits up from it, because it makes it proud and just kind of feels like it belongs on its own. And then the last ones up here, those are not wheel thrown in this one. So I've again made a form out of clay, and I fired that, and it's a base mold. And so I'll again roll it out with a rolling pin, and I'll put it into the plate or into the forms, and I'll press it in. But each form can be different. There's times where I take this rim up and it comes up much higher, or in that one it could be much wider on the rim. So I'm always altering it as well. So you're starting out with something that's a base, but you can really interpret it in different ways, which is really, it's really fun to work on. let's see, the glazes I mix up all my own glazes. So I have quite a large chemical room, and it's really fun. I love experimenting with them. I'll start out with the base, and then I'll run a series of tests as I add different oxides to it. So I'm changing the color, so I'm adding and impacting that glaze, and it could be a clear glaze, and I could end up with something with from a very, very pale celadon blue to a really strong blue. So I'm always doing tests. Every time I fire, I try to have different test tiles in so I can really take it one step further. And I enjoy that as well too. These are, the major component on these red is red iron oxide. And I've been playing with it, and that's really, there's no yellow in it. It's just how thick I'm putting it on. And I've really been trying to control and play with the yellow as it becomes denser in different areas. So if I was just to dip it real quickly and pull it out, it would be more like this. Although even this, you can see on the outside where it's a little bit darker. But with the yellow is really just playing with the thickness of the glaze and how I'm rolling it as I'm putting the application on. And I really love that. It's almost a watercolor to me, and you're interpreting the shape with the glazes that I'm using. All of this is high fire. I said that earlier that I was using that type of clay. So the first firing is a bisque firing, and that goes up to 1,700 degrees. And then the final glaze firing is always about, it's 2,250 usually is about what I go to for cone 10, cone 9.5. And they're really durable glazes, and I just really have fun playing with the glazes and then going up this high. They're not, when you're firing that high, there's not a lot of really bright colors you can use because they burn out, versus a medium or medium fire when you're going to cone 6. But I really love the durability of the glazes and the pieces, and what I'm able to do in the reduction firing. So I'm really loading up the kiln. I do a lot of chinos. These are chino glazes, which are, they're a Japanese glaze. And this basically, I don't know if you can tell, it's a white, and it'd be white if I didn't put additional carbon into the reduction environment. So basically, all the color on this plate is from the carbon that's captured in the kiln, which is really nice. And you never, I mean, there's so much serendipity with this. It's scary, but it's also really a lot of fun because I never know what I'm gonna get. But I love the chinos because it's where you set it in the kiln and what's the drafting that's coming through the kiln and how much carbon I have in the kiln is how much color I will get. But all three of these are in the same glaze, and it's just how much carbon affected the color on it. And I think that's about it. And
how did the line work? What inspired you?
You know, I've always loved line. I mean, so yeah, and I love the texture line and different lines. And I have this squeegee that I'll use, and sometimes it stutters. You can see up there where the rapid dots, and it's the same squeegee where the solid line is. And it's just how much glaze is in the squeegee, and it comes out a very thin point, but how much I'm squeezing that bulb and the intensity and the thickness of the glaze. So I'm always worried about when I put a line on is the consistency of that glaze, how thick or thin it is. Almost like if you were doing a painting and you were doing a wash. But here again, the stutter. And then this, and when I begin the stroke on it, a lot of times there's so much built up ink or glaze in it, it drips. And kind of nice. I don't mind it. So I'm not trying to take it off right before I begin. I don't mind if it has some drips before I get a straight line. But the lines also are captured here, I mean, on the celadon piece, and then over there, and then even taking, and this is my porcelain, even making the fatter lines too, which I'm just using, and picking up porcelain and just doing a swash over the line. So I really enjoy the lines on it. I enjoy putting them on. It's really fun. Yes?
You're talking clay and porcelain. Is it just the fineness that's the difference?
Well, it's color, and it's a different material. So
no, it's not just the fineness of it. It's totally.
But it is. But it definitely is finer. And you've heard of the English, the high China clay. Yeah. Now that's even finer than my porcelain.
Okay.
So their fineness is a quality on it, but it also is the color.
Carol, what type of kiln is it? Gas fired?
Yeah, it's when I bisque fire, because it's just, there's nothing exciting about that. I'm just trying to get it to the point where I can glaze it. That's an electric kiln, so that's an oxidation environment, and reduction's not possible on it. I've got a big, it runs off of a propane tank because we're out in the countryside, and so yeah, it's all gas fired on propane. Yeah. And it's, it's just like a heat. It's when I first got it, and I've got it in probably 2003, and I've been firing it. But the first year, it was so tough to fire that, and I knew how to fire from previous experiences. I just could not get the temperature to grow and to build on it. And it was like, I'd be calling my husband. It's like, well, I'm going to sleep in the studio again. It's 2 in the morning, and I'll finish the night here. And so we found out that with the propane, I needed a larger orifice. We got a larger orifice, and it was like I had a totally different machine in my presence. It was so fabulous. So there's a lot of tinkering with it when you've got so many different gas environments that you're trying to put through the same kiln. So, but it's working now like a charm.
Where in the process do you put those lines on? Is that how you do the glazing, or because it comes out?
So I'll put the background color on any of these. I'll put the background color on, and then I put the line on. But you're right, because I determine whether I want that line to have thickness and depth, or if I want it to be flat, and it's how much water I've got in the glaze, so I can control that.
One more question before we break that? Should I be the question? Sure. Or the comment, more so. This display is gorgeous. And,
It is.
And it shows a wonderful way to display Carol's work. But if anybody tonight wants to, because it is functional, see how the plate would sit. When you're actually using it, feel free to reach out to Kel or Maggie's over there or myself, and we can take it off the wall and set it down so you can see, because there are the feet on it, and see how it sits, and just feel free to ask.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm just so shocked to see 4 miles away to be here and to have all friends I know and other new faces I just met for tonight. And thank you again for being here. So a little story probably about myself. First of all, I want to thank the gallery who allowed me to show my work here, and with Carol, who have all this amazing work here. I'm honored to show my work with you and all of you in the space. Myself, I live in Green Bay, Wisconsin, but I'm original from Haiti. I moved here in 2013. So met my wife, and I was a security guard. Please don't try me. Then used to work with her in an organization that went down there and helped in Haiti. We met, and I was in artist at the time and working my work and doing security, showing them the town and places they need, anything like that. Got invitation to visit United States for the first time, and again to see cool things about artwork. Like she said, hey, we have cool things happening here. You need to check and visit and see. Well, it happened, so I got the visa and visit at the time and see all the great things happening here. And the culture is very different than what I used to. And of course, the snow. That was the best part for the snow, yeah. Like I live in a really, the climate is very different than here. If you ever visit in a really hot country. So then move here, visit, and back a couple times in my home country. And so then myself and her decide one day, hey, you know, be in a relationship at the time too. Just years later, we engaged, and after that, we got married, and now we have a family in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So, and became a resident in Green Bay. So then, since then, I have other jobs. I've been working, doing other jobs, and after that, just keep doing my artwork because I'm a self-taught artist. As I'm working, doing my work and doing other jobs, and at some point I say, okay, what should I decide? Should I pick? Because I need some time for my family as well at the time. Go to work and paint and try to make a living, and it wasn't very easy. So, and I pick which one is best for me, stay with my family and keep working and put more into what I do and what I like to do till today, and this is what I'm still doing. Now I'm a full-time artist and doing this and with other people's help and showing my work everywhere I can, send my work online everywhere I can. So I work for the Packers and doing murals for them over summertime, and for pre-games, they hire myself and a few of my friends, so we collaborate together and doing huge mural, 30-foot large mural in 2 hours for them. It's kind of be interesting because when it's getting cold at some time to watching the paint, for some of you who are painter, you can see trying to figure out how to get this paint not crack and not get frozen, I would say. Just, it's kind of interesting. Maybe I should open a line about paint and maybe figure out something. Then working for them, and then I've been part of many other organizations in the community, working with other artists underrepresented, people who can figure out how to find other organizations to be part of, and people who just, they have the talent but they don't know how to get themselves out. Myself, first of all, I have to find people, and I always trying to get myself in a position. I said, if I'm sitting and doing nothing, who's gonna know about me? I need to get myself out there to do my thing. And then this is the goal, meeting other artists, meeting other organizations and work with them. Work with other galleries, like they find me and they say, hey, would you like to show your work here? Well, if I wasn't there, they would not find me. And then work with them and, you know, just keep doing what you love to do and till today. And I can be here and then all of you sitting and probably older than me and just sitting and listening to what I have to say about my work. I'm a pet owner. I like to add this to it. I have 2 dogs and 2 cats. And between my wife and I, we have 4 kids. I have one with her and before that. So what else I need to talk more about? Maybe I need to jump to my artwork a little bit. I work with acrylic paint. My work is, I will describe it as modern eclectic. It's kind of like a, between surrealistic and cubism and self-expression. It's just all the greatest artists in the past. So I always follow Picasso and Salvador Dali. He paints surrealism and then combine them together and to do my thing. And at school, I used to like geometry and mathematics, so it's kind of like I like to balance things together and try to figure out which way and to get something, like not just using an object, but how can I use my mind to balance everything the way I want to balance it. And the same way I'm balancing the subject, but I want to balance the colors as well. So that's how you can see the way my work is flowing in a way as visual, the way you're looking at it. Sometimes you feel you want to touch it, sometimes you feel, don't scratch it, but you can just come closer. Yeah, so I like to use colors, and color is, again, something inside. And being self-taught is just looking over other artists who've been doing great things, and so just follow the concept, the way they do things, and combine with my own concept and see what can happen. And it's always there, so you just have to go for it. A lot of time, a lot of other artists always think, how can you come up with that? Well, I didn't just come up with that in 2 seconds. It takes time. I just focus and work it until get to that point. I started painting in 2008 after I lost my sister. I couldn't make it to college at the time because my dad he's a tailor, but that's what paid for school, everything like that. At some point, I couldn't make it to college. I said, okay, I need to figure out something. My dad is a self-taught because he saw his dad sewing, and then one day he said, I can do that. And his dad said, if you mess it up, you're gonna pay for it, right? He said, sure. And he did it. And I think that's where I got my talent at some point. My dad said, hey, you wanna learn what I do? I said, Dad, I already understand what you're doing, but I need to take a different path. But my path is, I don't know yet, but I'm gonna find it. So everybody have a talent, you just have to find it. And when you find it, don't give up on it. If you give up on it, you give up on yourself, because everyone has something. If you can't do what I do, maybe I can't do what you do. But if you try to do what I do, maybe it doesn't have to look the same, but you will find yourself in whatever you're good at. Everybody's good at something. That's how I create my work. So I don't know much to say. I travel all over the place and showing my work. So you'll find me here, and someday you might find me somewhere else, and I'm gonna see some faces. And thank you, Tim, for being here, and my two friends, and all of you. And we met tonight, so yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you keep a sketchbook, or how do you design?
Well, one day, if I pass away, my wife's gonna have a hard time to find the sketchbook because it's right here.
It's in there. Okay.
Now I'm trying to sketch a little bit and see, because actually it's kind of very difficult to see technology, the way technology is moving forward. Now I have an iPad and I'm drawing, I'm teaching my son, doing all of that, so that gives me an excuse to draw now.
Yeah.
So now I start drawing, you might find a few things around. Yeah.
So when you start your paintings, you don't start with a drawing, you just dive in?
I just putting paint, sometimes grab my shoes and just play with it. I did that to a lot of my wife's shoes. So, sorry. Yeah, just put the paint, and then you kind of feel some areas is kind of like unfinished focus, kind of, but it's not the focus point. Just play with it, and then as I'm going, and the idea is coming, and I don't know what to do with it. And as it's going, so you give me 100 canvases, I'm pretty sure I can have all of them colors in.
So Gregory,
Quick.
how many pieces do you start at a time, work on? Do you have several? Because the ideas aren't totally formulated yet.
My gallery's space studio is full of them, so I can't get enough canvases. That's the biggest problem. I can start with 20 canvases at a time, or 10. I can't start with one, because I have to have the thought out quickly because it's gonna drive me crazy. So, and as I'm having them, and ideas are coming. So now you can see a line of the, you kind of feel it, you kind of feel the colors almost coming into the same way. So that's why I have to get many of them.
Gregory.
Yes, sir?
So this group looks more controlled, a lot more brushwork than some of your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Are you flipping, or are you going back and forth? Because I just know sometimes you get pretty aggressive with rollers and.
Well, the thing is, Tim, is I will say it depends of the mood.
Sure.
If you wake up Sunday and your wife yelled at you, so maybe this is when it happened. Does that answer your question?
So these were mostly done with brushwork.
Yes, done with brushes, but when it started with aggressive,
I
really.
can see some areas.
Yes, so cool.
And maybe some shoes.
Yes. Next. I want the next. One more question. What about you, sir? I think so.
How much did you didn't paint at all when you were in Haiti? You only painted after Haiti?
I used to paint in Haiti, yes. I started with a few friends when I first started because I didn't know much about where to go, what to do at some point, and I met a few friends. And then they just realized I have the talent, and then they just get myself with them, and then just going to do paintings for some kind of like hotels and doing things like that. So, and this is when it gets started. And at some point I started painting on all my clothes, and people were just like crazy about it, didn't want to buy it. And I couldn't pay for canvases, and then it just started like that. But there I used to paint mostly on clothing and then mural stuff.
And did you collaborate with any other artists? Did you learn anything from any artists? Because Haiti has so many good artists.
Yes, I do. Met a lot of them. Sometimes we have 200 artists working in a few projects, like it's crazy. And then what I got from them, and I'm giving in return with this community I'm living right now. I did a collaboration with this gentleman right there, Tim, in Madison. So we did have a gallery shows together, and we paint a cool live paintings together, and then it was so fun.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was a dance, and we flipped back and forth, and it really
Yeah.
was
So
wonderful.
we're doing really cool things happening here. So just have to watch for it, just like you here tonight. Thank you. And again, thank you everyone for being here. So take a look at the art and see where I scratched them and anything like that. So, and Carol, again, it was nice working with you. Beautiful. Thank you.